Hello, everyone. I want to thank everybody for joining the webinar today. We're going to be talking through utilizing B2W Schedule to provide real-time visibility around your material and trucking operations. To make sure I get through all of today's content, everyone's going to be muted during the session. But with that said, I do encourage you to ask your questions through the chat feature built into this meeting application. And I'll look to address them either over the course of the presentation or at the end during our Q&A session. We'll start today with a quick introduction. My name is Mike Morneau. I'm the product manager for B2W Schedule. I've been at the company now for just over 5 years. Prior to joining B2W, I spent 8 years in the horizontal construction industry as a project manager, helping my company manage its construction backlog as well as its day-to-day operations. Let's take a quick look at the overview for today's session. So during our presentation today, we'll start by doing a brief overview of what B2W Schedule is. Then we'll touch on the workflows we put into place to help with the material and trucking operations. Next, we'll dive into the product so you can experience the look and feel for interactions within Schedule as we go through this workflow. At the conclusion, should have some time to respond to some questions from the session. So let's get started. So what does B2W Schedule provide your company? First, our software is a place which centralizes and standardizes your data collection across your scheduling operations. So employee dispatching, equipment mobilization, crew scheduling, as well as material and trucking management. Next, we help to streamline communication by leveraging notifications and reports that can streamline communication across your organization. Piggybacking off from that, we do improve visibility by exposing the most important information filtered to those users invested in the completion of these assignments. Finally, with these pieces in place, you can count on increased collaboration across your business as everyone will be working within the same schedule, looking at the same information and working towards the same goal in regards to your day-to-day operations. So let's take some time to walk through a scenario that will help me explain how B2W Schedule can help with these aspects of your business. Here we have an Interstate 93 project where this company is working to widen out a series of on and off ramps. To do this, the company will have to schedule various resources in order to support their day-to-day operations. What are some of these resources? First, and the main driving factor of many operations are your employees out in the field. So whether they're acting as field employees running a plate compactor, an operator sitting in a cab of an excavator, or a truck driver hauling materials across the road, each of these can be assigned using B2W Schedule. Then, of course, there's equipment that these employees are operating. This could be yellow iron, like dozers, pavers, MTVs, loaders. They could be small equipment like light towers, compressors, or generators. And also you got your pickup or trucking fleet. Lastly, we've got materials. Most are probably permanent materials installed at a location, such as pavement, aggregates, or precast. There are other types of materials which are equally important, called temporary materials such as barrier, crash barrels, steel plates, or boxes. So again, while all of this can be assigned and managed within B2W Schedule, today's webinar, we're going to focus on the drivers, their trucks, and the materials that they're hauling between the locations. With that, let's take a look at the workflow of requesting, managing, and assigning trucking and material. It all starts with the request coming in from the field. Say in this case, they need some barrier and some common barrel brought to the job to be installed by an excavation crew. They'll need some trucks to haul the material on site as well. Those requests go back to the office to be reviewed and assigned, allowing resources to be planned for both production and hauling of the material between source and destination locations. Next, this information needs to go out to the field so that the drivers, either internal or hired, or provided by outside trucking organizations, can work on these orders and be where they need to be when they need to be there. So I'm going to pull up B2W Schedule so we can take a deeper dive into how we support this entire workflow within the product. So pulling up our screen here, this is the landing page for B2W Software. Schedule is part of the operational suite, which includes tracking, maintain, inform, and estimate. But again, we're going to focus on the scheduling aspect today during today's review. I'm going to start with our location overview, which is kind of our job board for showing the different locations where work could be taking place. So by expanding this out, I can get a high-level summary of all the working locations as well as resources which are currently at these jobs. So for the sake of today's demonstration and going back to our Route 93 project, I'm going to put myself in Ed's shoes, who's managing these locations on the Route 93 exit expansion. So if I want to view more detail about these locations, I can click to compare these side by side. And now I can get in greater detail who the employees, equipment, materials that are at these different locations. So by reviewing here, I can see that Ed has his staging area, which he already has barrier and crash barrels on site. But then at both of his exits, he also has barrier, crash barrel, and equipment, which is parked. He's also got equipment that's assigned. So we have a paving crew that's working at exit 17. And here's our excavation crew, which is working at exit 18. So say Ed needs more barrier. You can see here that he has 64 already on site. Let's say he needs probably another 50 in order to start the next phase of his project. So I can either create this material order here, or I'm going to show you how you can kind of create this in the context of time in our different listing views. But while I'm on this page, I'll show you some other interesting aspects of this. If you're looking for geographic location and context, you can launch our map. So our map is embedded Google, which allows you to do things such as street view, turn on things like traffic and satellite. So if you're looking to get a closer look at a particular job site, you can just drag the Google gentleman on there, or you can turn on the satellite view here in order to view that particular location and where the work's taking place. So we can see exit 17 and the geofence drawn around it, and as well as our staging area. If we're looking for barrier and say I want to see where there's some other locations where barrier might be stockpiled, I can do a quick find, and you'll notice that other locations also have barrier on site. The first one it brings me to is this Route 101 project, but we can also see at the Hooksett yard that there's also some barrier located here. So there's an order for 10 barrier to be removed from this location already, but there's also 261 available on site. So I'm going to keep that in mind probably when I go to create my order on the schedule. So talking about my schedule, I'm going to go to Ed's schedule. So this is a location listing view, which provides me context about my different job sites and all the operations that are taking place at these job sites over the context of time. So in this case here, I'm looking at a week, but I could be looking up to 2 weeks, and in an upcoming release, up to 4 weeks worth of information on my view. I can toggle backwards and forwards through time. So if I want to look at what might have taken place last week or something that might be coming up down the road, I can use my calendar control to toggle between those date ranges. Right now, this is filtered down to just my jobs, but again, these could be configured. So if you have multiple jobs, multiple project managers, they can all kind of have their own schedule. But in this case, I was looking for some barrier and some common borrow to go to my jobs. So in this case, I want some more barrier dropped off to my staging area. So in this case, all I have to do here is find my barrier, and I'll create an order so that I can have 50 barrier dropped off before 7/16. So by dragging across the dates in line with the barrier material, it brings me to a material order where I can start filling out the criteria. So in this case, I'm specifying what type of order I'm looking to create. I can either have the material dropped off or removed. So if I'm looking to have the barrier taken off from my job site and returned back to the yard, I would pick a removal. I have a transport type. We either have a mass haul, which I'll touch on here in a little bit, which is more around installing or bringing materials to a job at a given rate, or a delivery, which in our case, we're just looking to have a quantity of material delivered to our job site within a window of time. And the last piece here is the trucking responsibility. So we're going to focus on internally dispatched orders today. But if you are getting material from an outside vendor and they have their own trucking fleet, which you don't have to manage or worry about, you can also specify that within this order, and it bypasses our trucking assignment workflow. So I'm creating a delivery for some more barrier to be dropped off at my location. So I'm going to continue with this configuration. And now I can add additional details to this order, which will help with my scheduling. So in this case, I have the job site selected, and maybe I want to specify the tracking account that it's going to be going under, which is mobilization. I can specify who's requested it, so either myself or somebody else at the job site. The material, how many I want. And then As you recall, I remembered seeing some barrier at the hookset yard, so I can begin typing that here. But if I didn't know that, I could also select a source using our panel on the right, which is filtered down to locations with this material on site. So as you can see, I have these other locations to kind of pick from, but again, I'm going to specify the hookset yard as where I want to get that material from. We have our addresses, which are pulled forward from these locations stored in our system. And then we have the dates and times which we can specify for this material to be brought to the job. I can specify a truck type if I need to, but I'll leave that up to the dispatcher to figure out how I'm going to get that material. But I will leave a note to make sure to leave this next to the other piles of barrier. All right, so I'm going to create that order. And now we can see it appears on my schedule. If anybody else is looking at my schedule, they can simply click on this tooltip here and get more detail about the order that I placed. As far as the common borrow that I was looking for, I had my excavation crew working on route 18 or exit 18 on route 93. I can see here that I've already got an order for the trucks, which I'll touch on in a minute here, but I'm looking for some more common borrow to be delivered to my job. So in this case, I already have a couple days orders in place. So instead of having to drag across these dates, I can simply click on this order and edit it. So when editing this order, since it's a mass haul, you can see we have different criteria that we're specifying in the system. So rather delivering this material within a window of time, I'm specifying a specific date, load and on-site times, as well as quantity and duration, which drives our production rate in which we're looking for to have this either installed or removed. So if I'm looking for a similar day as the 13th, I can just copy this date. And you can see it's copied all the information forward. And if I do have to make any tweaks, so let's say 550 tons and maybe 20 minutes instead of 15 minutes as they were a little stacked up. I can also specify what type of truck would work best for this case. So maybe it's hard to turn around, so I'll use a triaxle. And then I can again leave some notes. So we'll check with Ed before you arrive. So if I had permissions, if I was the truck dispatcher, I could go right to assigning trucks after creating this order. But since Ed doesn't have the assigned truck permissions, he might not even have visibility into this button here. So he would most likely just save that order with those changes. So we've got our bearer requested. We got the common borrow scheduled for Wednesday. I also said I wanted some trucks to work on site. So in this case here, I already have this order, which we'll take a look at. And the difference between the truck only order and the material order is quite simply that there's no materials associated with it, just a number of trucks and what time they expect to arrive there. So again, if you're managing a trucking fleet and you don't want to get into the details of the materials and you just need to send trucks to a location to work, you can again send them to a job site or place, enter in the tracking account that they'll be working under, and add those trucks to a simplified order. So as Ed, I got all my information and orders into the system. Something else that B2W Schedule does allow you to do is, from a customer standpoint, also capture orders that might be going out to outside organizations. So in this case here, I have a customer listing, and we'll put myself in the shoes of, say, Sarah, who's our sales manager, who's collecting orders for trucks and materials to these outside organizations. If I expand these out, I can see that Angerson Construction is looking for trucks pretty much all week, and already I can see that we have some trucks that have been assigned. They're also looking for some material to be brought to them. So in this case here, I have a material order that's entered in for this customer as well. I also have a delivery for the city of Manchester where they're looking for 500 tons of wrap to be dropped off. And I can see what the progress is on that particular material order through the ability for us to receive material. So in this case, if they call up and they receive material on this day, I can enter in an additional quantity of material that's been received to this particular customer. So this is kind of the data entry and data capture for the different orders that we have in our system. Again, either internal for job sites or for customers going outside the organization. Let's take a look at how these orders would get assigned to either the drivers being scheduled for those deliveries or mass hauls. We'll start with our deliveries, which we handle on the Move Planner tab built within the schedule application. So what the move planner does is allows you to schedule both equipment moves and those material deliveries to your low bed drivers or trucks. So as we're looking at the schedule here, we can see that 56 a barrier left with left to assign in an open status. I can also see that order for wrap that was requested by our customer, the City of Manchester. On the right-hand side, I have all of my resources that I have at my disposal to assign. So in this case here, I have Macy's low bed, Mike's low bed, which is already scheduled to pick up a piece of equipment and bring it to the hookset yard, and also pick up some barrier. I'll adjust that to remove the gap. And then we have a couple flow boys here, which are bringing wrap to this particular customer. So if I want to assign that barrier that was created on Ed's schedule, all I have to do is pick it up and drag it. And since the pickup location is the hookset yard, and maybe I can fit more than 10 sticks on this particular trailer, I can just drop it on top of that crew, and I'm brought to this dialog where I can further specify the assignment information. So here I see my source and destination. Here's the truck notes. Here I can say, remember to wear your vest on site. So I'm leaving driver specific notes, kind of semi-related to this order. And then I can also specify the quantity. So I can't fit all 50, but I'll do 10 on this particular order. Now, if I do need to swap out a piece of equipment or a driver, I can do that from within this dialog as well. But this order looks good, so I'll assign it to that particular driver. So you'll notice when I assigned it, a couple things happened. It merged our stop here with the hookset yard, but then it also inserted a stop for us to drop off that barrier at the Route 93 staging area. You'll also notice I have this warning here because I had stops planned with time specified, but now since I've inserted another stop, I need to kind of adjust my schedule to accommodate that additional stop. So I can do that by either launching the panel and selecting the crew, or I can click on this tooltip here and view this truck in the particular panel. So as you can see, I'm going to be at Dame Road at 5, Hookset at 7, then maybe I'm going to be at the staging area here for 11 a.m., and I'll still plan it to finish up my day at 5. So now I have 4 stops over a 12-hour period, and I'll apply those changes. So I can see 12 hours. You'll also notice that we have a bell here, which indicates that this particular driver has a change schedule that they need to be notified on. So in this case here, I'll view this driver in the notification panel. And since the system keeps track of who was notified of what assignments, it'll keep track of any new and updated schedules, which in this case is just Mike's low bed, or all scheduled, which are these 5 transport crews or trucks. But in this case, I'm just notifying Mike of their different assignments. So all I need to do here is click send, and now the notification will go out. It says it's been submitted. The bell goes away, letting me know that I no longer have a truck to notify. And if I pull up that notification here, we could take a look at what that driver would receive either through text or email. So in this case here, I have the email pulled up, and they have a formatted email which says sent by Mike and a phone number if he's got questions. You're going to go to Dame Road at 5 a.m. with a link to that, so that'll open up in a map if they need to see where that particular location is. It gives the site supervisor with contact information, and then it tells them specifically what they're dropping off or picking up from each stop. So in this case here, we have picking up the skid steer, and then they're going to the hookset yard to drop off the skid steer, and then they're picking up barrier to go to Ed's job and Amia's job as well, and then the third stop. Again, all the information from the schedule formatted into an easy email to read, which will go out to the drivers. So once everything's been assigned and notified on, if they wrap up their day, you can come into the system and mark these things as complete through the menu option. You can also use our panel here to bulk update multiple assignments. So say Mike finishes up his day and you want to mark everything as done, you can apply those changes. Say he ended up not getting to that last job, we can also push this out to be his first stop on the next day. So if he's going to start his day by dropping off the rest of that barrier, you can simply push that assignment out as well. So again, those are the assignments for deliveries and the orders that were created for those. We'll switch gears here to take a look at our mass hauls, which are handled on a separate view within the schedule application called our mass haul planner. So the Mass Hall Planner, again, is a single dedicated day view, which we're looking at the 14th at this moment. And what it does is it lists all the orders for this given day. We have a filter by status. So in this case, we have 3 unassigned orders. We have 1 planned order, which means that there's trucks that's been assigned to this order, but I've yet to confirm that I'll actually get those trucks to arrive. And then we have a confirmed status, which allows us to say I've asked for trucks and I've confirmed that all those trucks are set to show up. So the idea, again, is for the workflow to move all of these unassigned orders to the confirmed state. So if I'm looking at the columns here, I got a lot of information, and say I'm at a company which maybe doesn't use production crews, I can simply remove or add columns using our manage column dialog. So if I want to see information in a different order, so say I want to see requested by before production crews, or I want to remove production crews altogether, I can add, rearrange these columns depending on my specific request. So these changes are saved per dispatcher. So if you're working with multiple dispatchers and they like to view information slightly differently, each of those settings will be saved per user, and they'll save through sessions. So the next time I log in, it's going to look exactly how I left it, and hopefully that's exactly how I like to look at it. So let's take some time here and go through and assign these unassigned orders and see how this workflow looks. We'll start right at the top here where we have Atlantic material that's requested a couple trucks. So again, this is a truck only order for Atlantic materials. So clicking on the order, I get the general information from that order, how many trucks and for how long. I see the truck notes that were entered in when that order was captured. And then on the right-hand side, I can see available trucks that I can assign to this particular order. I can also see a list of trucks which have already been assigned potentially on a different order. But in this case here, I'm going to pick either a truck or a subcontractor. So if I work with named contractors and say they only have a certain number of trucks at their disposal, you can specify that within our system so that you can request only what they have available. We also have what are called brokers, which are trucking providers, which essentially have an unlimited capacity. So in this case here, we don't specify how many they have available. You can kind of just ask for as many trucks as you want. So as I've been picking trucks here, you can see that my current selection has been totaled up down here at the bottom. And when I add them to the order, I can see they've been added at that time that was requested, and if there was a spacing, at what spacing they were asked for. If I need to make further changes, I can just kind of click into each of these and I get more details on each assignment. So if I need to say, for this one, make sure to check with Gordy before you get there. I can add specific notes to this driver, but I've already got that on the truck notes, so we'll leave that off from there. I can also specify trucks at this organization. So if I work with this contractor a lot and I actually have their truck stored in the system, I can select their trucks individually, which may have drivers already called out on them. So in this case, I can pick truck number 1 from this organization with this driver associated with it. And if I want them to arrive second or first, I can drag to reorder from here. So with this order assigned, my true trucks, I can close this out and assign that on the dialog. I come back to my view. I see my unassigned count's gone from 3 to 2. So I'm going to quickly go into my next order here, which is that paving job on exit 18, where we're doing binder. So again, we've asked for 5 trucks at 10 hours, requested by Ed. In this case, I want 1 truck every 15 minutes starting at 7. So again, I could pick trucks from the right, but since I already had trucks working on this order on the previous day, I have a link here where I can just copy those trucks forward. And again, it brings forward the trucks, but it applies to new spacing and increments. So I had 6 trucks on yesterday's order. They're only asking for 5, so I'll take that last one off here, and I'll assign the trucks to this order. We'll finish up here with Ed's job. So again, I'll copy trucks from the previous day since I had that already working for the common borrow. But say I'm not going to be able to use one of these trucks on this day. I can simply click on it and swap that truck out for maybe a different truck or a different subcontractor. In this case, I'm going to swap it out for a different truck, and I'll actually use a truck that might have already been assigned here. I'll use Stacy, and we'll add them to the assignment instead. And you'll see that Stacy is an internal employee and their assignment's already been confirmed. So I don't actually have to go out and check with Stacy because they work for me. They're assumed to already be able to work on this particular assignment because I said so. So in this case, this order again is all set, but I do have a bunch of trucks which have been requested through these different organizations. So I assigned this here. Now I have 4 orders that are planned. I have 1 order that's confirmed. The next step in my workflow is to notify all those organizations of the trucks that I've requested. So again, using a built-in panel, notification panel within the system, I can pull up the different orders here, or the different organizations and their contacts, and then I can send them an email about the trucks that have been requested. So in this case, I'm just going to send a preview so that we can pull it up. And again, I'm going to drag this across the screen so we can take a look at what that particular organization would be receiving for an email or a text. So the emails here are quite a bit more details. The text are much simpler. They kind of just outline how many trucks have been requested and then have them go check the email to make sure that all the information is there and applicable. Because again, text is a little bit harder to read. So we kind of made it more concise, and then the emails here are much more detailed as far as who are the organizations, where are they sending the trucks, again, the hyperlink to where the work is taking place, and then what are the tracking accounts, who requested them, and then the different increments for which those trucks have been asked for. So again, this is filtered. This would only go out to Johnson & Jones contracting. So even though I might have had 2 different contractors on this order, they're only going to get an email with the specific trucks that were requested from them, and not have visibility into the trucks that might have been requested through other organizations. So again, a lot of information in the email that we're sending out, but again, trying to leverage the information which is already within the system. So after I have all my requests out, then I need to eventually either hear back from them or reach out to them to confirm the trucks that I've requested. So to do that, I'll use the confirm view, which I got to by clicking on the C on my page. And here we list all the organizations where I've asked for trucks. So I give Jill a call and say I've asked for 6 trucks across a couple of orders, and she'll say either no, we don't have those trucks available, or yes, we do. So it's an easy way to come through and either specify the name of the truck, or we can still leave it open and just confirm. And again, if we're not able to backfill on one of these orders, all you have to do is click to edit it and swap it out to maybe a different organization. So say I'm going to use the broker instead for this particular one. I'll swap that out. I can see this truck will be reassigned to the port freight broker and save those changes. Forgot to confirm these other 2 orders. Again, working through those changes, now I have 9 instead of 8 trucks to confirm from port freight broker. So I might have wanted to send a new notification, but in this case, maybe I'll just give them a call to see if I can have an extra truck on this particular order. And again, they'll either save and say, yes, you can have all these trucks, or they'll say, you need to swap and find somebody else to do that particular work. Again, happy path here, we'll save and confirm all the trucks. So now that all the trucks have been confirmed across these different orders, I can return back to my schedule, and I've moved all of the orders that were requested into confirmed status. And with that, we'll do our final step here, where we're going to send those notifications out to the individual trucks through the notification panel. So again, we go from a plan to a confirmed state. We have the individual truck specified, or the organization where we're requesting the trucks from. And again, I'll send out an email, or I'll do a text preview of what that information looks like. And I'll pull that up on screen. And very familiar to what we just sent, but in this case, it's telling you that we have confirmed trucks on a particular date at these different locations. So what happens if it rains on Ed's job? So we'll go back to Ed's schedule now that we have everything assigned and everything's supposed to be happy. Say it's going to rain and we actually need to move this paving operation out. So here I can see the paving crew and all the equipment. I see that order that I just assigned. I can see all the trucks that have been assigned, but we need to slide this out a day due to rain. I can just click on this assignment here, push the assignment out, and let's push it to tomorrow, and we'll work on Friday to kind of keep our schedule on track. We want to update the orders as well. And when I do that, it pushes the order out. But now I have a bunch of trucks that were assigned to work here that are now going to be working on the 15th instead. On the mass haul planner, we allow you to kind of capture that information by indicating to the user that an order is updated on this particular date. And when I click into it, we can see that the date of this order has changed, or it could have been deleted. And I can either A, save these assignments on this new date, or I might just want to unassign this particular order, and then I'll worry about reassigning it tomorrow when I need to, fill up tomorrow's day's requirements. So again, I've unassigned that order. The bell tells me I have to send notifications to Johnson & Jones about canceled assignments, and then I just resend the notifications. So again, the benefits of capturing all that information within one system and kind of interacting with each role within the organization kind of keeps everybody on the same page, and leveraging a system to keep track of who's been notified of what and when can help you make sure that you're keeping up to date on the notifications that need to be sent either within your company or your outside organization. So just real quick towards the tail end here, I did want to touch on reports. So again, we have reports across all of our elements, but we're going to focus on the schedule reports. And a lot of these do have to do with assignments at location, utilization of employees and equipment at job sites. But I do want to focus on a couple material and trucking specific reports. The first one here is our daily supplier report. So in this case, I have a report that shows all the different orders by location. So in this case, I'm looking at my Hooksett quarry. It shows me how many tons of the material I'm getting provided, the trucks, and who's showing up at what time. And then it gives me a total down at the bottom. So I have 550 tons of common barrel coming out of Hooksett. And then if I look at my Concord plant, I can see I have 2,000 tons of base being ordered. And then the last page here gives me a total tons across the different sources of material at my organization. The next report I'll touch on is our trucking summary report. So this one's slightly different in the fact that we're able to kind of group the truck assignments by whether we're looking at the source or the destination location. So if you're looking for a handy way to look at all the trucks that are scheduled to arrive at a particular job site, you can group this report by destination. And then after you run it, you'll be able to see, all the trucks that are going to, say, this Atlantic material job or going to the Route 93 job. They're all contained within the same report as well. And the last report I'll touch on is our material delivery summary. So what this report does is it kind of gives a summary of the order status for those deliveries that we scheduled on the move planner. So as we can see here, we have that wrap that's coming out of our quarry. We have 500 tons requested, 62 scheduled. We've already shipped 186, and they've received 181 of those 186 total quantities. So again, keeping track of ordered, scheduled, as well as received by the customer or at a particular location within the application. So that's a quick run through of the schedule application. I'm going to jump back into the PowerPoint here so we can wrap up today's presentation. We'll do that by recapping kind of what we just went through. We saw the system, which allows you to kind of capture the requirements needed to manage materials, both from internal consumption as well as external sales. We saw a system that allows you to assign and notify trucks or trucking organizations based off from those orders that were captured from the field. And this is all done, again, because B2W Schedule centralizes data by capturing all the operational information within one product. It streamlines the communication by utilizing notification to communicate changes. It improves visibility by showing schedule information in context of how a user would want to interact with it. And lastly, it increases collaboration by allowing users to build off from data and changes from different stages within the workflow. So with that, if you don't have B2W Schedule today and you're looking for more information about the product, to our sales department at the phone number or email shown on the screen. If you're an existing Schedule customer and have questions about the functionality you saw today, reach out to our sales support department so we can work with you on getting that functionality in place and also answering any additional questions you might have about the product. Thank you, everybody, for attending today's session and taking time out of your schedule. Have a great rest of your day.